Hello, my name is Josh. I'm no expert, but I can teach you a thing or two about being rich. This is Young Rich.
My name is Heshan De Silva. I'm 25 years old, born on April 7, 1988, and I'm a venture capitalist. My company is the De Silva Group. That's the holding company for everything. And directly below that is VenCap, Venture Capital. And that's the arm that focuses entirely on investing in people. We're running a program right now in Kenya to invest in 50,000 unique ideas, from food to health to transport to land to almost anything in Kenya. And that's the structure of our business.
At only 25, Heshan is worth over 1 billion Kenya shillings.
I was born in Nairobi Hospital.
As a child, my brother was very shy, but as a baby and as a toddler, apparently he was really outgoing. He was like dancing and singing, and he knew like all the words of all the nursery rhymes or whatever.
Yeah, no, I had a really blessed childhood. You know, my parents worked from very little to get to a decent place which enabled us to go to international schools.
We used to have a little tricycle in our house, and he used to like race through the corridors and all driving this, and he used to put me on the back of it. and so he was like really outgoing, but then I think he got asthma and he lost a lot of weight and became really shy. Through like primary school and all, he was very quiet, but he was always there watching out for me. Broke my jaw on like the 9th of the 9th, 1999, playing cricket, and he started crying to our parents because he thought it was his fault.
I went to school at Banda in Langata, and then I went to high school at Roslyn Academy.
When I was in high school, I was playing soccer one afternoon with some friends, and one of the guys slide tackled me and I fell and I was bleeding from my nose, and like my brother was just there out of nowhere.
I had a fairly privileged upbringing, quite dissimilar to a lot of people. That's a blessing. You can't ever take that away from anyone. My parents focused a lot on school, even though they didn't have a lot of money to start off with. Honestly, I don't think I ever really truly liked to study. It just never came naturally to me. You know, I'd be the guy who wouldn't study at all for a test and then manage to get a B+ or an A- on a test without having to worry about it. You know, I saw other people writing down notes and studying and being really stressed about it, and I never understood that. I mean, I've done a whole host of aptitude tests and things like that, and I test fairly highly. It's just that listening to people and learning hasn't really clicked with me. Well, I graduated from Roslyn at 16. And I went to the University of Miami, and it was an interesting experience. You know, I had come from a very sheltered upbringing, you know, a very strong Christian background at Roslyn, and going to Miami and having all that freedom was quite difficult. I actually had no idea what I wanted to study, and that was a big problem. You know, I picked Florida because of the weather. You know, it has good weather, and whenever you're picking a university based on the weather, that's a huge no-no sign that maybe you should take some time off before taking that step. I went in, and you know, 1 week I'd be majoring in international relations, the next it would be international business, the next it would be English. And you know, being very young and not really knowing what you want to do with your life is a very bad time to go to university. You know, I think if you're focused and, you know, this is the plan that I have for my life, that's a very good place to be. But I wasn't there at all. You know, I quickly learned that university wasn't for me. You know, I can't sit down and listen to someone just talking to me and telling me to take down these notes and read this tonight and do this paper. And it really irritated me. So I stopped going to class. And me and another friend would sit outside the library and we'd do papers for people. Because we're in Miami, lots of people are partying and they have papers due the next day. And a lot of them are on some fairly strong drugs, coke and ecstasy and whatnot. And they just come up to you and they say, "This is my paper, I want to see on it. Here's the cash, $200 a page, $150 a page." And you make like $600 a night comfortably to get a C for someone. And general smartness, general being able to think rationally and articulate it has come easily to me. So I was able to write these papers for a lot of people, and for a couple of months we were doing that every single night. And when you're earning $600, what is that, 45, 50,000 shillings a night as a kid, and you're in Miami, you spend quite a lot, so you start buying nicer clothes and you start going out to places, and your lifestyle soon overtakes what you're earning, and you start getting in debt, and that's a frightening place to be when you're young, because you don't have anyone to ask, say, I've spent too much, I need some help. And that's the dark place that I found myself in.
Heshan's parents took education seriously. They ensured he had gone to the best schools. In university, however, Heshan lost his path.
First semester I was able to manage, not get into too many problems, but then I got into alcohol. I said yes once to one drink, and that was the end of that. And I couldn't stop saying yes. Alcohol leads to a lot of drinking, which leads to stop going to classes, not caring about anything. And that eventually leads to drugs, because you're constantly looking for that feeling. By the end of my second semester, I was a mess. I was probably addicted to alcohol and to certain drugs as well. My parents decided maybe I should transfer at the end of my first year. But I was so adamant in staying on because I was having supposedly the time of my life that I insisted on staying. About 3 weeks into my second year, I was heavily under the influence of all sorts of stuff, and I decided to take my own life because I was straight failing all of my classes. I had straight Fs through everything, and it was quite difficult. I didn't want to shame my family. It's a lot of money to put your child through education in the US, and to say that you're failing would have been a shame. That's what I thought at the time. I sat down. I was in the library for some reason, and I sat down to send an email to my family saying that I'm sorry, and your classic suicide note as you were. And it was horribly phrased because I was quite drunk, but sent that off, and my family got the email almost instantly. I don't know how you react when you get something like that from your child, but they've told me that it was horrible.
I've always looked up to my older brother. I've always followed his path and all, and for me it was really hard when this all happened to him to suddenly get this call, and not the call, it was first an email, and then we were really worried what had happened to him. I was crying the whole time because I didn't know what had happened to him,
So took a whole host of medications, and I went to a vending machine to get a Coke to drink these pills with, and the Coke machine jammed. So I went and I got a Gatorade instead. That Coke, had I taken that, had that fallen and I'd been able to swallow my pills, so that would have killed me, because pills dehydrate your brain and Coke further dehydrates you. But in that moment when that machine jammed and I got a Gatorade, that Gatorade was able to keep me alive long enough.
And this is somebody who I considered my best friend my whole life, and who I was looking up to, and suddenly something wasn't working out for him. So I was really upset about that, and I know my whole family was upset about it.
They called the university, and the university looked through all of their tapes, because everything is filmed over there, and they eventually found me knocked out in one of the study halls in the library. They sent a security group over, a friend from Sri Lanka, and I was taken straight to the hospital from there. When they found me, they had found me with a pencil in my hand, because my big plan was if the pills didn't work, I was actually going to stab myself with a pencil. You know, it was a very dark moment, and I think that's heavily down to all these drugs and alcohol that you do take. It alters your perception of reality, and it heavily did that for me. Yes, my experience in a American psych ward, I spent 3 days in there, because you have to be there under mental observation, because you're supposedly not a safety to yourself or others. So I spent some time in there. My first night, they give everyone a Bible, and my first night someone actually tried to take their own life with the Bible, stabbing themselves in the throat. And you look at all of this and you realize at some point, this isn't you, this isn't what you were created to be. This is something that is horribly dark, and that you should avoid that at all costs. And it was a real turning point for me. I'll never forget, my father had flown to the States to come and see me, and I've never seen him have so much emotion. We gave each other a big hug, and there were tears in his eyes. We flew back to Kenya, and we spent about a month or 2 months over here, going through heavy withdrawal symptoms. And this is where my mom came in. She was a huge help, because watching your son go through withdrawal of alcohol, panic attacks, you're shaking, you're reliving all those moments that you had just up until you tried to take your own life. You relive that on a constant basis, and you become a wreck to those who are around you. You're completely non-functional. And this is what drugs and alcohol can do. Everyone sees the fun side of it, and this is a very dark part of it. So I spent two months going through heavy withdrawal, with the shaking and all of this. Anytime someone would bring up Florida, just the name, I would start shaking. I couldn't even handle hearing it. I first went to South Africa for rehab, and I had an amazing therapist over there who changed everything, and that's when I reaccepted God into my life. God had always been a part of it, but had never been the focus. Then I came back to Kenya, and firstly I applied to a whole host of hotels in Kenya, because it was my dream to work in a hotel. From 2-star all the way to 5-star in Nairobi, I applied to everyone, and every single place rejected me, because I didn't have a university degree. And it was hard, because you have this idea of yourself, and people just flat out tell you no.
Halo, Muchi, sema ni aje? Mimi niko yoga mbaya. Wewe uko wapi? Gym hata unajua unaenda kuinua mawe ama ni chuma unainua. Sema lakini mimi fanya aje, by the way, ile Datsun huko Grogon ulipata spare part. Sasa kesho soko tunaenda na nini? Kuwa serious msee.
So I started working in my family's tea exporting company. It was a very small tea exporting company. I'd go to the auctions, and I'd see people being able to bid more than us on certain teas, and we couldn't pay those more prices, because then it would affect our margins. And just seeing how other people would not step on you, but literally treat you like you're a very small person. That was a big inspiration to me. I decided that no one would ever treat me like that, and I would work as hard as I could to make sure that no one will ever step on me. And if that meant that I worked 18-20 hours a day, so be it. And I had 10,000 shillings every month to manage myself with, and that's quite difficult also, because of my past with alcohol, with drugs and all. I restricted myself from social activities. So my 10,000 shillings was literally there for living. I come across a lot of young people today through work, and I don't like listening to excuses. People tell me that I only have 10,000-15,000 shillings a month to live off of. What am I going to do with life? I've been there, you know. I know what it's like to have 10,000 shillings a month and to be managing with that. And I cannot understand why you would make that as an excuse for not wanting to succeed. So my start was with 10,000 shillings, and that's how my company, the De Silva Group, started. Goodness, my first million. My first million came from a insurance thing. Some guys had come up to me, and I had my 10,000 shillings at the time. That's what I was willing to spend on business, you know, and growing my group. So I had my 10,000 shillings, and I had these 3 guys from Dandora who came up to me and said, hey, why don't we try this? Selling insurance to every person rather than it being available to an elite few. So we came up with packages ranging from 5 shillings all the way up to 100 shillings, basically enabling you to have insurance when you travel out of Nairobi or into Nairobi and throughout the region as well. And then I took that to a large insurance company here in Nairobi, and they really liked it. And very quickly after that, we partnered up with a mobile phone company, and we were able to sell insurance via phone. And because it was 5 bob upwards, the turnover was very high. Within our first year, we were projected at 120 million shillings, and that is what enabled us to go full speed into investing in ideas rather than focusing on normal businesses ourselves.
Starting from 10,000 shillings, Heshan has built a billion-shilling empire. He has affected thousands of lives positively in the process.
I always wanted to give back to young people. That's the whole point of our fund, being able to empower young people who don't think they have a chance with financing and with a chance to push your idea forward into something that's a truly viable business. That's something that really resonated with me. I was in Masai Mara, and I saw this couple who was sitting around a fire, and I just decided to speak to them. I think my mother insisted that I do because they looked quite lonely. And the guy runs a hedge fund in New York, and I think it's around $17 billion. And we just started talking, and we were pitching around ideas, and we decided, hey, why don't we try and change the massive poverty that is happening in Kenya? And it's crazy for one fund to think that you can do that, but when you're sitting behind a couple of partners who are well into the billions of dollars, some of these things seem a bit more realistic. So we went full on, and we decided to do something that no fund on earth has ever tried before, and that's investing purely in what's in your head.
My names are Christy Byerly, and I'm a life coach here in Nairobi. Heshan is amazing. He's one of my just all-star clients. He has chosen Christ. He is very active at Nairobi Chapel. He's out there giving to, I don't even want to say the next generation because he's so young. So he's actively out there saying, okay, where are the brightest ideas? Where can I help others get to be where I am now? I think his love of Christ is really grounding him in humility so that he's able to just see it as, this is goodness flowing through me, and this is a light that can be a spark to lots of other young entrepreneurs.
My name is Paul Kieko. I'm a businessman, entrepreneur, and I'm in the catering industry. My business is mobile kitchens. Before I met Heshan, the business was okay, it was doing okay, but we still needed that extra boost. He was able to come in with a financial investment, which we were lacking at that moment. So it's allowed us to provide better services to our clients in Nairobi. My plan is to have maybe 10 of these trucks in the next 1 year.
My name is Eugene Buru. I am CEO of Moran Apparel. I met Heshan at a fashion business workshop. I've had my clothing line for about a year, and it's been picking up slowly but surely. So I thought with Heshan, and he was very interested in taking up young people's ideas and doing bigger things with them, way bigger things with them. And his connections, his knowledge, his business acumen, I thought all of that, incorporate it into my business model, then we would go very far. With the help of Heshan, I see Moran Apparel just not as a clothing brand for the common Mwananchi, but I see it also as a corporate brand by Kenyans for the world.
The best thing about having money is being able to do almost anything that you want to do. Also being able to give back. Everything that I do make goes back into the company, because then that's another life that we can invest in. I live a very, I'd like to say, normal life. Yes, you have nice cars and you have a nice place to call your home, but I'm very frugal. A normal weekend will never be more than 3,000 shillings.
My name is Farhana Syed and I've been dating Heshan for 3 years. Business-wise, he's very astute and he knows what he wants and he knows how to get it. And on the personal side, you wouldn't believe he's actually really quiet and really shy, and he's very kind and caring as well. Some of the things I think has made him really successful include stuff like he can tell what a person is at face value. He knows how to read people, which means that he can tell if you're lying really easily. He's just good when it comes to judging his gut feeling about something. So if it's a business that he sees and he has a gut feeling that it would work, he'll go for it.
I believe that we were all created to be incredible, and that God did not have a vision for us to live mediocre lives. I think somewhere along the line you get hit by obstacles, you get hit by being born into a difficult scenario, or that you didn't have an opportunity at education. You make excuses based on these things, and then you settle for something that is lower. And I think that no matter what scenario that you're born into, funds like ours are designed to help people like that achieve their full potential. I started my group with 10,000 shillings and I could achieve what I have. No one has an excuse, You can't say I don't have connections, I don't have this, I don't have that. Those are all no's. And how do you switch your mindset to being a yes? Don't ever settle for 40,000 shillings a month being the light at the end of the tunnel. How do you make that 40 and 80, that 80, 100, more and more and more? Always want to improve yourself, because then your children are born into a scenario that is conducive to growth and that is not conducive to failure. And that's the mindset that I think we need to change, especially in this country, to want to succeed and not make excuses for failure. At 6 in the morning I have yoga, hot yoga. That's something that I do every day. And that is my 1.5 hours away from this madness, It's silence and solitude and you being able to connect with yourself.
na masonko na wa envy, like that should be me, but nothing's easy, lazima weke bidii. I was told patience pays, but sijaipata your check. Since time waits for no man, inabidi nianze kuchase. I tighten my lace, alafu naingia rat race. Eyes on the price, so I increase my pace. Huku Nairobi, everyone's trying to get paid, and I'm no exception. Paper chasing all seasons, including recession. Money on my mind every second.